What's up, Truth Saying? It's your girl, Mickey Truth, aka SC's #1 urban blogger and the queen of paperwork. In today's conversation, we got to talk about social media's way of wanting to raise other people's kids. Y'all know when it comes to the content, I tell y'all, I'm not about to tell nobody how to raise their kids. What I do is I raise my way that I see fit, and others should do the same. Certain parenting styles or things I may not agree with, that don't make it right or wrong. But some of y'all parents on this internet, especially on TikTok, feel like your way is the best way, and if it doesn't go with what you say, it's a no-go. Then I also want to talk about the intake of content that our children receive. Who is at fault? I had a great debate yesterday with Russian. Shout out to Russian and the whole Gas Lab Studios in Columbia, South Carolina. And he feels like it's the community's um job to make sure these kids do what is right. And I agree to disagree with him. And you might be like, Mickey, why would you agree to disagree? And I agree that it is the community's responsibility to give the kids resources to do what's right to become something good in life. I disagree on saying that one viewpoint is right and one viewpoint is wrong when it comes to raising kids. You see how the two topics go into each other? All right, let's get into it. So here in South Carolina and maybe other places in the South, but y'all know I'm located in South Carolina, the trail rides is very popular. Okay, you see kids at the trail rides. I personally have never been to one. However, you can't help but to get in the trail ride conversation. Okay, just a couple weeks ago, I did a video in regards to Janell. I can't pronounce her last name, but she's a biracial girl that started doing what they call the dangerous dance, right? And then everybody was like, "Oh, you're trying to take over the black girl dance." Tiana is who created the dance, and it was all that, right? So now a video is going viral, okay, from Janelle doing a performance at a show, and a little girl who you can tell is part of a dance team gets on the stage and start dancing the dance that Tiana created to a mixed song. It's not even the real song. It's two songs put together. Somebody put that together and they made a dance. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Before Russian said what the song was about, I never really listened to the words to know what the song was about, you know? And as far as the dance itself, when I originally did my video, I said everybody has their own take on how to do it. Okay. Now, he said, and I'll put his Facebook post in the video. He said something along the lines of that should be child neglect or endangerment to have a child on stage with a half-naked woman that's promoting sex, right? And I said, that's a reach to me, right? Because the environment is dance. The child wasn't doing nothing provocative. I honestly felt like the child did it real, like, chill, like everybody said the dance was created to do. What Janelle had on ain't the responsibility of the child, and it must not been that big of a deal to those parents or adults that's looking because nobody created outrage. Now, me personally, when I don't agree with something, I don't share it, right? This video has been shared millions of times. I, before making this video, saw it on TikTok at least a dozen times where people were upset that the child was doing a dance next to Janelle or whatever, but they were sharing the video of the child doing the dance. See, that's me, I feel like, is the accountability of the sharer. And not just this type of content, any type of content. When people disagree with the content I drop on YouTube, I say, well, why are you watching it? And once you watch it, why are you commenting? Knowing that engagement pushes the video out. If I don't like content, I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna dislike it. I'm not gonna do nothing to it besides say do not recommend anymore and keep it moving and go on with my day. That's how you stop it from spreading. So our conversation led from that into who's to blame for this. And I said, well, as far as dancing, it's been that way as far as I can remember. We were doing the crybaby in the 90s, okay? We were grinding with me to Pretty Ricky. And I'm going to be honest, unless you're into music like that, you may not have listened too deep into a song. And as a parent, I'm going to be honest, I let my kids listen to rap. And it took me to maybe hear something and be like, no, you can't listen to him no more. Example, my daughter was into 21 Savage in like 9th, 10th grade. I didn't know too much about 21 Savage. However, one morning she was getting ready for school and I heard him say, Papa Plan B. My daughter ain't know what no Plan B was at that point. I knew what it was and I said, nope, you can't listen to him no more. That's it. Right? I stopped it in my home. You can't listen to him. Nope, I don't want to catch you listening to him. Right? However, if another parent allows their kids to listen to it, even after they found out what it's saying, who am I to tell you you're wrong? That's just not my preference. I just don't agree with it. But at the end of the day, that's your household, that's your child. Now, I lead in to say all this, and the conclusion and my point of my conversation with Russian was everybody wants to look at how somebody else could have changed the scenario with the little girl. Well, don't have Janell there half naked. You're right. That could have been one. The promoters could have been that. But guess what? Instead of parents or adults getting online making TikToks about how they don't like it, maybe the ones that was there witnessing it first and foremost, if they would have went up and made a complaint as a group, I promise you they would have told Janell that either she had to leave or put on clothes. Nobody did it because nobody there felt that strongly that it was wrong. Are they at fault for that? No. It was their preference not to say nothing because it wasn't that dire to them. To me, if I see a child in a dangerous situation, in my view, I'm going to do something about it. So obviously, the people there did not feel like it was a dangerous situation that the child was dancing to dangerous. Okay, it was doing a dangerous dance. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't that. Now, my point of view was it starts at home, right? Again, I'm gonna do my part as a parent and grandparent at home so that I can stop certain behaviors and things I don't agree with. Another household may not do that. So I say this, and this is why I'm always like, we be passing the accountability book. Okay. Of course, it's situations that has different elements to it where it's different scenarios, but overall it starts at home. You know what I'm saying? You have to teach your kids what you feel is right and wrong. Now, when it comes to the smaller kids, because when I made an example about when I was 12, they was like, well, that's older. Okay, well, let's talk about the smaller kids. Depending on your environment will shape what you are influenced by. So while some adults are looking at Janell as promoting sex and the song is about a girl getting semen on her and all that, as a dance mom, you're probably like, yeah, she ain't, the child ain't up there doing nothing that promotes that. They may not be looking at it that way. However, it's another parent that might be looking at it that way. Who's to say who's right and wrong about how they look at it? Another thing, right? It's like, and I'm normally not the one to say you got to have kids or raise kids to understand, but I'm going to say it in this situation. Because until you have your own kids to raise, you will understand how, how can I put it? How you know what it takes to raise a kid. How you know how it is for you to want your kids to go a certain way without somebody else input in it. Let me elaborate, because I might not say that as clear. So, for example, with my daughter, she practices gentle parenting. That will be the label, gentle parenting. She doesn't want to whoop her kid. As a grandparent, I respect what my daughter is doing with my granddaughter. So I gentle grandparent. However, it may be another house like, hell nah, whoop their ass. They're not wrong for saying that because that's how they feel. They're not right either because it's their preference. Just like I'm not wrong or my daughter's not wrong for not wanting to do whooping. Some older people may be like, oh, spare the rod, spoil the child. But again, it's preference. It's not right or wrong. And I feel like sometimes we get so hyped up in our own opinions and preference, we start thinking, well, if it's not what I think, then it's wrong. No, no, no. I'm an open-minded person, and I've been through so much, and I've seen how different things play out that I understand is multiple ways to raise kids. And I also understand the choice of how you raise your kids is up to you. Now, let me try to give another example. I grew up getting whoopings. Did that deter me from doing bad things? No. I know other kids who didn't get whoopings like I did. Did it deter them from doing bad things? No. I know with me, I felt like whooping just misses the point. I got creative as a parent. I did creative punishments. My daughter got in trouble. She didn't like to sit in the living room. So I would lock her out of her room and force her to sit in the living room. My daughter was like to read books. Then guess what? After you do your homework, you can't read books today. That's your punishment. You have to get creative. My daughter did dance. They danced to some music that was popular. Not everything in the song was, PG-13, whether it's cuss words or what. However, and from a dance standpoint, it's just a dance. They're not doing nothing to say, lit this or nothing. They wasn't doing none of that. And I feel like if you're not in that type of environment, then of course you're going to think something else. And just because you're thinking of something sexually doesn't mean everybody that sees what you see is going to think about it sexually. It's fathers that are okay with their daughters doing majorette dance. And some fathers is not with that. Again, it's not right or wrong, it's preference. So I say all this to say, if the problem is that we look at the wrong things to be the solution, okay? If you don't want kids at these trail rides no more, for whatever reason, and it got too raunchy or whatever, then petition your city council to make sure that kids are not allowed at these venues for the trail ride. If you don't want the guests to be half naked, then guess what? Make noise at events that allow half naked women to come in. Come together and stop it. Sharing this type of content, if you're not into it or you are against it, is not the solution. It's going to make it a trend. And we all know what happens when it becomes a trend. It goes crazy. Hence why Mickey the Truth, SC's #1 urban blogger, is talking about this right now because it's a popular topic. Not because I want to talk about it, not even because it was really on my mind to talk about it. I'm not impacted by this. I'm not personally impacted by it. My daughter's grown. Secondly, my granddaughter still jumps up and down when she dances. So I'm not impacted by it. She's not old enough to know what TikTok is and all that. So I don't have to worry about it. However, that's not wrong for me. It's just nobody in my circle is impacted. I don't have to step outside my circle to go look for kids that are impacted. No, that's for their parents, their community around them to do that. Now, if a child comes into my circle, of course, we're going to make sure they are not impacted. And if they are impacted, we'll correct it once they're in our circle. But if they're not in our circle, who the hell am I to go over there to your circle to tell you, hey, your child part of that dance team, she don't need to do that. You're going to be like, do you pay these dance fees? Do you You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, this ain't 1960. Okay. And I still believe it take a village to raise a kid. But let's keep in mind, if you're not part of that village, you need to know your place, and you just need to know, like, hey, that their preference is different than mine. That's all I'm saying. Y'all get in the comments and let me know what you think. I'm out.